Hey everybody, today Rahdo runs through Pandemic Legacy Season 0, 1963. And what do I mean by that? Well, here's the deal, folks. I've already done a full unboxing and a full run through of the spoiler-free prologue that comes with Pandemic Legacy Season 0. If you actually want to see how this game plays, this is not the video. You can hit that eye in the top right corner screen and go watch me and Jen have a good old time introducing you to the basics of how the game works. Also, I am not actually going to be giving my opinions about the game either, because I've already done that a couple of months ago in, I think it was my August 2020 Roundup. I talked at great length, longer than any other game I've ever covered in a Roundup, about Jen's and my experiences playing. And if you want to go hear those final thoughts, you can hit that eye up in the top right corner screen, or go check out the show notes. There'll be links for both of those there. What I'm going to be talking about today is a very spoiler-filled introduction to a variant that I developed that allows you to continue playing Pandemic once the campaign is over. The campaign takes place over the year 1962. And that's why I call my little variant 1963. After the story is over, you can keep playing and having more adventures. And if you stick around, I'm going to show you how it works. But I have to warn you, the first thing you're going to see is the contents of this box opened up, spilled out, and this will spoil everything for the game. Not in terms of the story, I'm not really talking about story at all, but in terms of all the new gameplay systems that get introduced over the course of this campaign. I'm going to show you how all of that stuff works in an ongoing replayable campaign, which Matt Leacock, the co-designer of the game, actually labeled pretty good, or words to that effect. I don't remember exactly what he said. I'll put it right there. I actually asked him a couple months ago, hey Matt, what do you think of this? How does it sound? And he gave it the unofficial thumbs up. So this is in no way, shape, or form an official variant. This is just what I have come up with so that my wife and I can continue to enjoy the game. And we have. I think it works really great. And I'm going to show you how you can set the game up to continue playing, what changes you have to make, to make it an ongoing compatible game. And yeah, hopefully you will find this of some interest. If you don't actually care to see me go through it all, you can follow another link down in the show notes, and I guess I'll probably put an eye, that will actually take you to a thread on Board Game Geek where I've just got it all spelled out if you want to read about it that way instead. So, warning, folks. Again, if you keep watching this video now, we are going to go into heavy gameplay spoiler territory. So this is your last chance. I would not want this to, any of the cool twists and turns and new systems that you get introduced over the course of the game to be spoiled. So really, do not continue watching unless you have actually finished the campaign, or you have the memory of a goldfish and you're probably going to forget everything I say, so you can still be surprised when you play the game for real. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go. Okay, everybody, so we're going to have this video in 3 sections. First, I'll talk about the permanent changes to make to your game after the campaign is over so that your system will support ongoing play. Then, I'll walk you through how to set up a 1963 edition of the game that lets you continue to play to your heart's content and have an evergreen Legacy 0, which is fantastic. And then, after the setup, I'll spend a little bit of time going over the small changes in a couple little places that have to be made to support, because there's no concept of permanent changes to the world anymore. The world is what it is. So first of all, let's talk about what we change. 2 things. One of them has to do with Pearl. Hey Pearl, how you looking? If you didn't make it to all the rooms, go ahead and open them all up now. Everything's available. But you will notice I've gone on ahead and put on every one of the crawl spaces. So they're just all placed out there. That is, if you didn't quite get them all done, put them all in now so that all the rooms are available. You can reach them every time you play. How the Pearl works, I'll talk about that when I get to the gameplay section. Or I guess you can just follow the links down in the show notes if you just want to jump straight to that section. But anyway, open it all up, put everything in, but otherwise, don't really change anything about Pearl. The other thing is, you might have incomplete passports. My wife and I, we played a 2-player game and we only ever played 2 characters, which meant we had 2 passports full of nothing. And what I would suggest doing is go on ahead and open them up. I have yet to actually put new pictures. I want to play with that a little bit, eye patches or whatever. But go on ahead and apply all of the remaining assets. And I would say do it such that all 4 passports, every single alias has at least 2 assets. It's interesting, there aren't enough aliases or assets with the game for all aliases to get 3 things. So you will have to pick and choose a little bit. And honestly, I thought it was a lot of fun, just spending some time figuring out what new characters to create. Oh no, this is one of our, there's good old Marvin Yeltsin Calvin. Is this Jen's? No, that's one of the other ones. So, but yeah, just go ahead, have fun, put them together randomly, put them together with some thought. I mean, this is a totally new character I've made, who I have not actually given an identity yet. Field Medic Crime Boss, authorization code 424, tracking device. On the first page, I went and gave him 3, a visa Hanoi, shop owner in Hanoi, test pilot in Hanoi. We love Hanoi in our world. It's everything. This is our home away from home, Hanoi. So, go on ahead and have fun. Flesh out, make sure they are all done. And here's the other thing I would suggest, folks. In case you have characters who did get hit every once in a while, burned every once in a while, ignore that. If you actually have the burn token, ignore it. If you have any, liabilities, ignore them. I did think about saying, hey, let's go ahead and put liabilities in every single slot too, but I mean, these characters are complex enough, knowing that you've got, 6 to 9 different special abilities you have to switch back and forth, plus their cover alias and all that stuff. I figure in the ongoing game, just ignore if they'd ever been burned, so the alias is available to you again, they've been reinstated, and ignore any liabilities you might, and don't bother putting any more on. Do it if you want to create more complexity, but that's it. That's what to change. Permanently open up Pearl, make sure you've got 4 fully fleshed out characters, all the assets are in play, and then you are ready to set up. So let's move on to that next. Alrighty, so it's really simple. In the rulebook, it always talks about step 1 is check the legacy deck and prepare the objectives. I say, instead of checking the legacy deck, check my 1963 variant. Again, the links are down in the show notes. If you want to go read this, I'm just going to walk through them. Here's the first thing you do. You take the player deck. I haven't put any satellites or escalations or events in here, so it's just a player deck. All the cities are available. Shuffle it up a little bit. Whee! And then draw until you've got a city for 5 of the 6 regions. One region will not be a problem for you when you're playing in 1963. One region will give you a breather. So let's see what we got. We have got Asia. Asia, don't care about a second one. South America. Pacific Rim. Another Asia, not surprising. Africa, and will it be North America or Europe? Will it be North America? Okay, Europe is not our problem this game. Alrighty. Okay, I don't know if you know my show, but I have a tendency to make a few goofs here, although I wouldn't have expected to make a goof in a video about my own variant for a game. But let me correct myself. Actually, Europe is not off the table. What I do is I keep drawing till I have 1 of each of the 6 regions, and then I go through all of the subsequent steps, which I'm about to go through, and at the end of that process, I have 1 card left over, and that is the one region that does not have any problems. That's the one region you don't have to worry about necessarily. And that's just to ensure that, like, Pacific Rim, which has fewer cards in the deck, has just as much of a chance as all the other regions of being a hotspot in the game. So, just a slight little correction, and now let's get back to it. So, these will help us figure out the locations of the objectives that are going to be available to us in this session of 1963. So, we shuffle it up. Or actually, no. First of all, we look at all 5 cities, and we find the city that has the most connections on the board. All right, to give the fugitive a chance to get away. So, Sydney has 3, Lima has 4, Atlanta has 4, Leopoldville has 3, and Peking, where are you, Peking? I know you're over here somewhere, has 3. And of course, there's one more goof because Peking is a Soviet aligned city. And obviously, a fugitive can't start there because their whole goal is to get to a Soviet faction city. So bear that in mind. Peking would be ruled out. And all of this stuff is spelled out. Check the links down in the show notes to go to the Board Game Geek thread. All right. All right. So it is either going to be Lima with 4 or Atlanta with 4. Right? Leopoldville had 3. Okay. So one of these two, pick them randomly, bippity-boppity-boop, will be where the fugitive starts. And he is starting out in Lima. Alrighty. So he wants to run to Havana. So you got to stop that. Actually, and this is a I don't think he's going to be too much problem. Just stop his northern movement before you get too far. And the next closest thing is Cairo. So in this game, he's not going to be too problematic. If it had been, what was my other option? If it had been Atlanta, that's going to be, well, again, he's far away from the red. But, you could also have him smack dab in Istanbul, which means he's just one step away. So it's variable. Sometimes he's a really scary objective. Sometimes he's really not going to be a problem and you can focus on other things. It really depends on the setup. So we have dealt with Lima. Alrighty, so that card is done. Now, take the remaining 4 cards. We're going to set up our second objective. Pick 2 of them at random. We've got Peking and Leopoldville. Leopoldville, we need to get a team over there, and simultaneously, we need to have a team in Peking. So that's a neutral and a Soviet team. And this is, the standard known city. Get teams in both of these places, spend an action, and boom, you complete that objective. Okay. Next up, we got 2 more. One of these is going to be the unknown city objective. One of them is going to be the location of Pearl. After Pearl got broken into so many times in '62, the Soviets have decided we need to move this someplace else and reset it up. So Pearl is now going to be down under. Down here in Sydney. So, you need something to represent Pearl because it's no longer in Novosibirsk, although I guess it could have been. That could have been the card I drew. And I'm just using one of the vans, just take any one, put it face down. It kind of looks like a building. Although you could just use take 3 little target tokens and stack them up. That could be a nice reminder too that that's where Pearl is. Or use a penny, use a cube from another game, whatever you want. But anyway, here's where Pearl is. But we're not done with Pearl yet because we have to find out what room in Pearl are we going to. And that has to do with this card. It is an allied card, which means it's going to be an easier. It's going to be an easier one. If it had been a neutral card, it would have been a slightly more difficult. If it had been a Soviet, or no, actually, wait, no. Actually, I had that backwards. The Allied ones are the toughest rooms to get to. The Soviet ones are the easiest. Because strictly speaking, the Allied cities are the easiest one to get to. So since it's in an Allied city, it's going to be in one of the tougher rooms to get to. Specifically, which one? It depends on the number. It's a 5. Again, follow the links in the show notes. You can go look at the little chart I made. An Ally number 1 to 5, that means it's in the clinical trial room. Alrighty, so we have to put a marker in the clinical trial room, which alright, there we go. I'm sorry, no, Allied. In the greenhouse. In the greenhouse, all the way down here. Which means we gotta go a long ways. But you know what? It could have been worse. If it had been a 6 through 9, it would have been the holding cells. Oh yeah. And that's a tough one to deal with because you got to take a hit of 3 when you first walk in there. But it wasn't quite so bad. It was the greenhouse. This is we need to get to Sydney and we need to get to the greenhouse and do the standard Pearl, spend an action and discard cards. Right. Okay. So that's a scary one, which makes up for, this one being pretty easy. That one, that's going to be tougher. Okay. And then finally, the last card. Now, we don't care what city it is. We care what region. North America. We are going to have a hidden city objective in North America. So I got to find the other North America cards. And this is exactly the same as what you've done, I don't know how many times now, playing Pandemic Season 0. Get all the cards. There they are. Alrighty, all the North America options. Pick one randomly. Put it face down. And in case you forget, as a reminder, take one of the little bullseyes and put it next to the region. So we know somewhere in North America, there's a hidden city that we've got to get the team to, but we have to play the whole clue game and, do process elimination to figure out which city it is in North America. And so, of course, the rest of the cards go in. And that's it, folks. Here's the deal. We have now set up 5 objectives spread throughout the world. Pearl, a hidden city, a simultaneous double team, the little guy. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have 4 objectives, and here's how we keep track of how many objectives we've done. This is an objective, obviously. If you find it and reveal it, yay, you get to take this because you've completed an objective. If you shut down the guy and clean up all the fugitive markers, you complete an objective. If you successfully make it to the target room in Pearl and discard the cards, you complete an objective. If you do the double search simultaneously, you complete an objective. And it's up to you to decide your difficulty level. I would say playing normal means you must complete 3 of the 4 objectives before time runs out, before everything blows up in your face. If you want to play hard, you got to complete all 4 of them. You got to get everything done. If you want to make things a little bit easier, hey, you just got to get 2 of them done before time runs out. And now that's not all. You can also adjust the difficulty by setting your funding. I just said 3 by default, but Jen and I, we always just play with 1, so we just get 1 a card. But you would be surprised. If you have a really hurtin' world and you think it's tough to play in your world, hey, just give yourself only 2 objectives, or give yourself a bunch more. Give yourself 5, give yourself 6, give yourself 7 event cards. The more you put in here, the easier it gets. So you can adjust the difficulty based on how tough your world is by how many event cards you're going to throw in there, how many of the objectives you have to be able to beat to consider it a win. And here's another thing you can do. If you still got any restrictions, and you do, even if you were destroying them as you went, you've still got some that you never actually unlocked based on your psychiatric evaluations, just pick one of them randomly and say, oh, man, they don't like us being passive. The game just got harder again. So there's a lot of levers you can pull and play with to increase or decrease the difficulty and make sure this is going to be an ongoing fun experience, no matter how bad your world is, or no matter how pristine and relatively untouched it is, depending on how the session went for you. But you will be able to continue to enjoy the excellent gameplay. And that is the setup. But now, let's just spend a few minutes talking about the gameplay changes. Okay, and the biggest one, folks, by far, is going to be getting your cover blown. If you have to spend the night in Istanbul and no one can get you out the next morning, and you're supposed to get burned twice, like I said right up front, from now on, ignore your scratchaways. And also, at the same time, ignore your whatchamacallums, your liabilities. It goes back to the system that the game uses when you play the first, game 0, when you were using temporary aliases. Every time you would have to scratch off a marker for any reason in the game that comes along. Instead, here's my starting hand of 4 cards because I'm playing a 2-player game. And the first thing I did is I spent the night in Istanbul. Next morning, in the original game, you have to pick 2 cards at random. 2 cards to delete. I gave away my ploy. I say now, discard 2 at random. Because here's the thing. When Jen and I played the level 0, we just are never afraid of being burned because we always had a card we didn't mind getting rid of. But if it's going to be random and we don't know what we're going to lose if we wake up in Madrid or Moscow or Mexico City or whatever it might be, or whatever your world might be, losing randomly 1, 2, or 3 cards, now that's terrifying. And it's terrifying in the same way that it was in the Legacy game because you're worried about, literally losing your alias altogether. So that's the main difference. You lose randomly instead of choosing. However, there are a couple addendums to that because there's 2 specific player powers. What are they? They are the Collections Manager and the Suitcase of Money. So if you wake up in Atlanta and you gotta get burned twice, and you have the Collection Manager or Suitcase of Money, which now no longer make any sense. They have no function because those were about avoiding, the scratch-offs. Instead, if you would ever take a hit, but you have either of those abilities active, you still have to discard the same number of cards, but you go back to being able to choose. So you can pick and choose which one, which gives you control. So that's a new change to specifically Collective Manager, which is one of the Soviet aliases, and Suitcase of Money, which is one of the assets. So That's the first change you have to bear in mind. The second change has to do with Pearl. So let's go on ahead and jump in here a little bit. So Pearl, it's the greenhouse we got to get to, right? And remember, as part of the permanent changes, I said, hey, just go on ahead and open up all the hatches. They're all available there. Here's the deal. In the fall game, of course, you gotta burn cards to make these things built. And then once they're built, it's no big deal. It seems too easy to just say, oh yeah, you can just walk through them. So what I suggest is a continuation of the original game. If I want to get to the greenhouse and I want to come through the monitoring room, through the archives, through the clinic room to get there, that means I've got to go through here. To be able to move through a hatch now, you have to discard a card, not just reveal a card, but discard one or more cards that total 5 in value. It used to be you had to discard cards of 10 or more to build the things. They're all built, so now to be able to move through here, you have to discard 5 or more worth of cards to be able to move through these different shortcuts. So that's one change. The other change is there are 3 rooms that don't really make sense anymore. Although there's simple changes. The control room says permanently destroy a satellite card. Put the satellite card back in the box. If you've already destroyed some satellite cards in your main session, hey, they're still destroyed. In 1963, there are no more European satellites, let's say, or whatever it is. But you can still come to the control room and temporarily get rid of them. They won't bother you in this session. So that's a change. It's no longer destroy, it's just return to the box. The other one, the loading dock, this is the one that lets you mess with disrupting trials. And you'll notice I didn't put disrupting trials in this variant, the 1963 variant, because it doesn't make sense, because those objectives are all about making permanent changes to the world, and we're done making permanent changes. So I left that one off. There is no disrupt, which means this is meaningless. So it used to be, hey, get a random card of one of the disrupts and add it to your hand. Now I just say, hey, if you come here, draw a random card from the player discard pile. Not a escalation card. If you get an escalation, draw again, but just get a random card from the escalation. That's what you get at the loading dock. It's the same end result. You have an extra card in your hand. It's just not helping you complete a disrupt. But anyway, so it's still useful to get an extra card as you're skulking around in here. Because, hey, sometimes you got to get to some tough rooms, or you just want to shut down satellites or whatever it might be. And then the other one, the records room, is also changed. It's no longer, discover where Lion's Tooth is, because, of course, that's done. So this is still, instead, if you make it to the records room and you have not already figured out which of the cities is the hidden city doing the normal system, and you haven't used the special ability to do it, you can come to the records room and just instantly determine that, oh, North America, it was LA. So that is the function of this. So it's functionally the same room. It's just telling you whatever your current hidden city is, you can find out what it is if you don't already know. So those are the changes to the Pearl. You got to pay a little bit to move around, and 3 of the rooms change. Oh, and right. What else was there? Oh, yeah. So getting hit, and that's it. To keep track of your progress, again, when you complete an objective, just take one of these things. If you're playing normal, once you've gotten 3 of them done, hooray, you win. Unless you're playing super mode, in which case you got to get all 4 of them done. And again, you can adjust the difficulty by increasing or decreasing your funding, bringing in 1 or even more if you're really feeling sassy. Restrictions that you can add to mess things up. But otherwise, everything else is still the same. I have completed the step 1 of setup. Where was it? The legacy. I prepared the objectives. Now you do all the normal stuff. Add agents to the board, figure out, set up the player deck, and pick which character you're going to be. And of course now you've got 4 interesting characters with all kinds of combinations of powers based on what the current world is. Getting to Pearl down in Sydney, are you going to bother with that? Are you just going to try and shut this guy down really quick? Etc., etc. And enjoy, folks, because that's Pandemic Legacy Season 0, the 1963 variant. And thanks for watching. Again, links down in the show notes. Have a nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.